Hi everyone and welcome back. In today's episode, I want to talk about freelancing jobs. I want to share with you the freelance jobs that I had in the past, how much I earned, and how I got started. The reason that you are watching this or listening to this episode is perhaps because you too are thinking about whether or not to start freelancing. Perhaps you're working in a job that is boring and you want to do something on the side, or perhaps you're even thinking about working freelance in the long term. Maybe you just had enough of your corporate job and you want to try and make it on your own. But perhaps you also have no idea where to start, how freelancing works, and so on. So this will be the first video that I'm going to make on the topic of freelancing. There will be more to come, but today I want to focus on telling you about the freelance jobs that I had in the past, in the hopes that this can help you to also find your first freelance job. In the past, I had various freelance jobs, and I'm going to talk about 3 today. My first job was to translate documents, and this is an example of one of the jobs that I once had. I had to translate 20 pages, and per page I got paid $15. So $15 times 20 pages is $300 for the whole project. So in the beginning, it would take me a bit longer to do the translation. I was still a bit unsure about how to do it and everything, and it would take me 8 hours or 10 hours, but after a while I got better and faster at it, and in the end it only took me 5 hours. So $300 divided by 5 hours is $60. In the end, the rate that I earned for doing this translating job was $60. Another freelance job I had was doing voiceovers. I once did a voiceover job for a radio campaign in German language. Yes, because I speak German, I grew up there, but that's a story for another time. And the job lasted about 3 hours. In total, I needed about 3 hours from preparation until finish. And for the whole project, I got paid $1,800, $1,800. So $1,800 divided by 3 hours is $600 per hour. And I would say that so far, that is the highest rate per hour that I earned so far. The third job that I want to tell you about today is working as a YouTube channel manager. Actually, it's YouTube channel optimizer, but to make it simple, I'll just say it's YouTube channel manager. And no, I'm not talking about my own YouTube channels, but I'm talking about managing the YouTube channel for a company. So I once managed a YouTube channel of a kids animation company, and it was a freelance job. But while the other jobs that I previously mentioned were project-based, were one-offs, this job here was as an independent contractor for the long term. And in this job, I earned $3,000 per month. And in the beginning, I took 30 to 40 hours to get the job done. And of course, if you take that much time, then you won't be earning that much on an hourly basis. But after a while, I got so fast and so efficient at it. And by the way, it was a remote job. So I was really in charge of my own hours. No one told me when I had to work or how I had to work. So in the end, I got it down to 30 hours per month instead of per week. So $3,000 divided by 30 hours is $100 per hour. So my earning rate was $100 per hour. So you can see in my various jobs, I earned various rates starting from $60 per hour, $100 per hour, up to $600 per hour. Just for some context, as many of you might know, my background was in banking, in project management, and at that time I didn't have any experience in translating documents or doing voiceover, but yet I was able to get a job in that field. And even to myself, that was quite surprising. And that's exactly what I want to talk to you about in this video. I want to talk about how you yourself can eventually get one of these freelance jobs, even though you might feel that you don't really have the necessary experience and background for it. So back then in the year 2011, which now seems like an eternity, I quit my job in banking because I decided that I wanted to go into self-employment. I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to be in charge of my own hours, goals, schedules. I no longer wanted to work in a big corporation with other people telling me what I had to do. I wanted to explore those things that I was really, really interested in and passionate about, that I really cared about, and that's why I finally decided to leave my job. But after I quit my job, things didn't run as smoothly. I had these grand plans, but it worked out completely different. So over these few years until now, I had to take up various freelance jobs to make it work. And in addition to that, I also had some passive income streams, and I also flipped a house once where I earned quite a lot of money to sustain me over the years. But those freelance jobs were really, really important for me as an additional income source. So if you are also thinking of one day leaving your job, your corporate job, and do your own thing, it's really a good idea to start now as early as possible. Don't wait until the day comes where you can't stand it anymore, but be prepared. Starting from now, try to get a freelance job, do something on the side, because that experience will give you tons of confidence. It will give you the confidence and self-belief that you will be able to make it on your own, even without a huge corporation, a company backing you. Now, let me tell you more about each of these jobs, and for each example, I will tell you how much I earned, how I got the job, and also whether I had the matching skill, experience, or education for it. So let's start with the first one, which is translating documents. So as I told you before, normally I would translate documents that were about 20 pages long and get paid $15 per hour on average. So $15 times 20 is $300, and I got that done within 5 hours, so it ended up being $60 per hour. And of course, if you are even better at translating, if you can do your job faster at high quality, if you can do it in 3 hours, then your rate is even higher, right? Then it would be $300 divided by 3 equals $100. And if on top of that, you can raise your rate, if it's not $15 but $20, then you can earn even more. So how did I get this job? At first, it might seem a bit like a coincidence, but actually it's not. So the funny thing is that I got this translation job from an ex-colleague. So the documents I translated were banking contracts, and I had to translate them from English to Indonesian or Indonesian to English. And I got this job from an ex-colleague of mine. So after I left banking, I still stayed in touch with some of my colleagues, and I chatted with them, and I also told them that I was open to work, but I'm looking for freelance work, so I'm not looking to be employed at a company. And one day, one of my ex-colleagues who I worked with on several projects in the past contacted me and asked me, hey, you are experienced in banking, would you like to take this job to translate this set of documents, and I will pay you this and this amount of money. I mean, although I've never done it before, I just quickly ran it through my mind, and I thought that yes, of course, I'll definitely be able to do this. So I accepted the job, and for my first job, I really put in a lot of effort and took a lot of time, and my client, my ex-colleague, was happy with it, and from there I got repeat orders. So if we're talking about skill, I didn't have the exact skill or experience as in I had experience translating documents, or I was certified in some way to translate documents. No, I didn't have that. But I happened to have the exact combination of experience that was useful to do that job, which is I understood the banking industry, I understood banking terms, and I was also fluent in both English and Indonesian. But the important things that actually got me the job beside those experiences and skills was that I had this existing relationship with this ex-colleague. So I stayed in touch, and they also knew that I was open to work, and that is also why they thought of me and offered me that job. And most importantly, also that there was existing trust. Trust is something really important in the freelance industry. Sometimes it can be really difficult to sell your skills, your services, or products on the open market where nobody knows you yet, because you might not have proof of work and people don't really know you. They don't know if they can trust you. But in this case, my ex-colleague already worked with me multiple times on various projects, and he knew that I was trustworthy, I was reliable, I was on time, and that I would do a great job, and he trusted me, and thereby, without further thought, he just gave me the job. He didn't interview me, he didn't test me or anything. And this is also a tip that I have for you. If you have a skill that you want to monetize and you still have doubts about selling it on the open market, or you're having a hard time finding clients, then one of the things that you can do is to actually approach your ex-colleagues. I mean, I understand that if you're working at company A at the moment, you might be hesitant, and I think you might not really want to do that, to offer your services to someone working in the same company or even department, right? Because then your boss would know that you're doing it. So a better idea might be to offer your services to an ex-colleague, someone you worked with in the past, or an ex-boss, right? And of course, there might be limitations set by your company as to what kind of freelancing jobs you may or may do, but that is something that you have to check for yourself. Let's talk about the second job, which is voiceover. And this is something that I also didn't expect would happen, but that is really, really fun to do. So many of you know that I have a background in acting. I acted in a few short films and also produced my own films, but I didn't really think about voice acting at first because I don't have a real background in voice other than singing as a hobby, doing karaoke, and I also did a vocal chorus one time. But one day, as I was browsing through Facebook, that was a Facebook group that posted ads about jobs in the film industry, I saw that there were also a bunch of voiceover jobs. So I started applying to them. And for that, I prepared a simple demo. And no, it was not a professional demo. It was not recorded in a studio. I just did it. At that time, I didn't have this microphone yet, so I actually just recorded it on my phone. So the ad that I was looking at that time was for a radio commercial in German language, and I happened to be able to speak German. So I just did a short demo. I recorded it on my phone. I sent it over, and I got the job. And it was really unexpected. I would never have thought that I could get that job. But I also wouldn't say that it was luck or coincidence, because far before I got that job, I had the habit of browsing through the job ads on in this Facebook group, and I applied to various jobs. I think I might have applied to somewhere around 20 jobs, and I didn't really hear back from anyone. I didn't get accepted, but this one just worked out. I just kept on applying because I thought that this would be something really fun to do, recording your voice and getting paid for it, right? And it turned out that voice acting, voiceover work really paid well. As I told you before, I was paid $1,800 for just 3 hours. And certainly the rate will vary very widely depending on the type of project, the production company, and the number of hours you work, and how experienced you are or how famous you are, and so on. But in general, it's safe to say that voice acting pays a lot. So here I would just encourage you to think of the skills that you currently have. Maybe you are very good at something, but you don't really realize it. If you really go through all the skills you have, I'm sure you are better at something compared to other people, and you might be able to monetize that skill. And once you know what skill you want to monetize, what service you want to sell, then start browsing, start researching, searching for jobs that are out there. Nowadays, there are so many online platforms, not just Facebook. There's Fiverr, there's Upwork, where you can look for jobs and you can offer your expertise. Let's talk about job number 3, which is being a YouTube channel optimizer, or let's just say YouTube channel manager, where I was managing the YouTube channel of a kids animation company. And this was a job that I actually liked because it was a remote job and the hours were very flexible. So here I was an independent contractor and I worked remotely, and it was up to me how I wanted to set my schedule, meaning that the company hiring me cannot tell me where I had to work, so I could work from home, from a cafe, from another location, and also how many hours I need to work and how to set up my schedule. That was totally up to me. And the more efficiently I worked, the more productive I was, the more money I would earn on an hourly basis. And as I told you before, per month I would be paid $3,000. And at first it took me a long time to get settled, to learn everything, but after some time, after I think 2 months, I got my working hours down to just 30 hours per month, which is about on average 7.5 hours per week, which is very little, right? I could squeeze that in the midst of my studies at that time and my other part-time job. So if you divide $3,000 by 30, that comes down to $100 per hour, which is quite a high hourly rate, I must say. And of course, that is pre-tax. You still have to take off your taxes, and usually you won't get health insurance and so on. So that is something else you have to calculate. You have to do a cost benefit and see whether or not working freelance is actually worth it for you or not. Because if you work freelance, you have to have your own equipment, you have to have your own laptop, you have to pay for your own phone bill, etc. Whereas if you're an employee at a company, then you usually work at their premises, or even if you work remotely, you would get a laptop. The company would provide you with the equipment that you need to work. So how did I get my job here? So that was also very interesting. I got this freelance job from a friend. Actually, it was not my direct friend at that time. Now she's my friend, but at that time it was a second degree connection. So on LinkedIn, and this is something that's very important, keep this in mind, is that I set my work status to open to work. So when you put your status to open to work, that sends a signal to employers and also your friends and network, etc., that you are actually looking for work. So if they find a suitable opportunity, they will actually, I think, be more likely to offer it to you. So that job as YouTube channel manager happened to require experience with YouTube, and at that time I happened to already run my YouTube channel for 1 year. So I didn't have that much experience yet, but at least I had some proof of work that I could show. And they were also looking for someone with experience in project management, and in addition to that, someone who could speak both English and Indonesian, because I was going to manage their YouTube channel for the Indonesian market in Indonesian language. And they were also looking for someone who had experience in production. And I did. I had some experience in film production. But that was maybe 80 or 90% of the requirements. There were maybe 10 or 20% of the things listed in the job ad that I was not experienced with, but I just ignored that. And this is also something that is really important to keep in mind. If you're applying for a job, whether that's a permanent job, a freelance job, don't think that you have to fulfill 100% of the requirements, because there are rarely people who meet all of the requirements. Most people only meet 80%, 90%, and then you would learn the rest, the remaining 10% on the job. So was this job advertised? I guess it was advertised, but I would not have looked for it in the first place, because at that time I didn't even know that this kind of job existed. So I never thought of working freelance as a YouTube channel manager. But the second degree connection saw my profile on LinkedIn and also took a look at my YouTube channel. So she was convinced that, okay, yes, I can do the job and I have the skills. And that is why she invited me to interview. And we talked for a few minutes, and then the next day immediately I got an interview with the manager at that company. So that second degree connection, my friend now was working at that company, that YouTube company at that time, and she knew about the opening, and she looked at my LinkedIn profile and saw that I had some relevant experience and skills and the language requirements, and also saw that I had experience with YouTube. So she thought that it was perfect, and the next day I was invited to interview with the hiring manager at that company. So again, this might sound like a strange coincidence, but it had something to do with preparation. So a tip I would give you here is make sure that your LinkedIn profile is updated and that you set your status to open to work, and also that you keep in touch with your connections, with your close friends, and let them know that you are actually looking for freelance work. Because if you don't tell them that you are open to work and that you are actually looking to get into freelancing, then even though there's an opportunity, they might not necessarily offer it to you, because they might think, she already has a job, she's not looking for a job, so why should I ask her, right? So these were some of the freelance jobs that I once had, and I'm pretty sure that you kind of have an idea of what kind of freelance job you are looking for. Perhaps you've already tried to look for a job, but it didn't work out yet, or maybe you're still thinking of it, or maybe you think you'll do it later, you're still unsure, you don't really have the confidence yet. And I need to stop you right there. If you are really serious about getting a freelance job and trying to earn money on your own outside of the context of a corporation, not being an employee, or if you just want to earn some extra money, the most important thing is that you just get your first freelance job. That is, I would say, the biggest hurdle to overcome. The biggest challenge in getting into freelancing, I believe, is not the technicalities, and most of the time not your skill either, because I'm pretty sure that you have a ton of skills that you could actually monetize monetize. But the biggest hurdles in getting into freelancing is more psychological. It's a matter of mindset. And here I want to walk you through 5 things that you need to overcome if you are serious about this freelancing thing. Because if you do not overcome these, then you will just stay stuck in your corporate job forever. So let's start with the first one. The first hurdle is getting over your internal resistance to sell yourself. Here's the thing, when you're working at a company, you do not have to sell yourself over and over. You just sell yourself once during the interview, and then you have the job, and then you just do your job, right? But when you're a freelancer, you have to offer your services to other people, to the public over and over again. You have to exude the confidence that you are able to do the job, and you have to give them a reason why they should pick you over anyone else, right? But I know that selling yourself can sometimes be uncomfortable, especially if you're not used to it. So you just have to get over this internal resistance. And the way to do it is to just, as fast as possible, get your first job. Because if you've done it once, if you manage to sell your services once, then there is no reason why you cannot do it again. And the second hurdle to getting into freelancing is learning something new. When you're freelancing, you might have 90% of the skills, but maybe you do not have 10% of the skills. For example, you have really good photography skills, but you've never really offered that service to customers yet. So you're not really experienced with the customer relationship side of things, and you might not really feel as confident to offer your services because you know your own weaknesses the best, and you think that as long as you're not perfect in what you're doing yet, you're not ready to offer your services. But it's kind of a chicken and egg situation. In order to get better at what you do, you have to do it more for other people by offering that service. And the third thing that you need to overcome is the fear of embarrassing yourself. And I totally get it. When I first started to freelance, I had a bit of this imposter syndrome. I felt a bit embarrassed, a bit shy because I was a nobody, because I didn't really have experience in that area yet. And I was afraid to make mistakes, to fail, or maybe concerned that people won't take me seriously or so. And something like that may also be going through your head at the moment. Maybe you have the confidence, you know that you have the skills, you have what it takes to sell your services to the market, but you are still afraid that you might embarrass yourself. Maybe you might make a mistake, but guys, that is bound to happen. Everyone will make a mistake at some point in their career, especially if they are doing something new or even starting a new job. So you just have to get over it, and you have to be prepared that you will make some kind of mistake, but that's okay, and that's part of the learning process. The fourth hurdle that keeps you from going into freelancing is just to stop trying. So there are many people who are keen to start freelancing, and they're very enticed by all these ads, these YouTube videos that tell you that within the first month of freelancing, they can earn thousands of dollars and so on. But they just apply to a few jobs, to 2 jobs, or even just 1 job, and it didn't work out, and they're not hired by the client, and then they just give up. And if that is your mindset, then you will definitely not get into freelancing. The first freelance job is really, really the hardest to get. You might need to apply for 10 jobs or 20 jobs or 30 jobs. It might take you 1 month, 3 months, or even 8 months until you get your first client. But you just cannot afford to give up, because if you give up, then it just won't happen for you. You just need to accept the reality that in order to get your first freelance job, it is likely to take you much longer, and that it will take you many attempts until you get the job. After you got your first job, you learned a ton of things about how to market yourself, about how to do the job, how you package your service, your product, and going forward, it will get easier and easier. It's just the first that's most difficult. So just don't stop trying. The fifth hurdle that will keep you from going into freelancing is not willing to make compromises. So being a perfectionist can be a very, very big obstacle, and I have gone through this myself. In the beginning, before I started freelancing, I thought that everything needed to be perfect first. I needed to have a perfect website. I needed to have a large portfolio with great work to showcase, and only then can I start, right? And I also had this idealistic idea about the price that I wanted to charge my clients and so on. And of course, you can determine the price that you want to charge, but maybe at a later stage. In the beginning, sometimes you have to be fine with charging a lower price or giving the clients a discount just so that you can get some experience. later on, if you already have some experience, if you have testimonials, if you have a name, if you have more customers, then you can slowly raise your price. If you're able to deal effectively with these 5 hurdles I just mentioned, then there is no reason at all why you can't get your first freelance job within the next 6 months. And guys, if you want to have more detailed information on how you can get your foot in the door, how you can get into freelance and get your first job, I'm planning to put out a video on my main channel that's a guide, a 5-step guide on how you can get your first freelance job. So if you're serious about that, then you might want to hop over to my main channel and check out that video. It will be coming out in the next 2 weeks. Check that out, and I hope that you'll get your first freelance job pretty soon. As usual, thank you so much guys for listening. I wish you an awesome day. All the best with your jobs, with your careers, and I'll see you again in the next episode.